Welcome, friends, to the English portion of Para Ser Legal to Be Legal. I got a great show for you. One, we're going to be talking about USCIS May 2020 update. Second, how much money do I need to bring to my no-cost consultation? 3, who should come with you to your consult? And 4, do I need to bring any documents with me?
Calificas para ser legal, quieres saber, solo llama al abogado Andres Mejer.
Last week, I talked about what does a good immigration attorney do for me? What are the options to solve my immigration challenge? Do I need to have an attorney? And 3, if I want an attorney, how do I decide a good attorney from a bad one? That's what we talked about last week. You can see the links right down below. First and foremost, immigration is closed until June 4th. That is subject to change, but right now, for the remainder of the month, USCIS is closed. That's for fingerprints, for green card interviews, for citizenship, for oath ceremonies, closed to everyone. Courts around the country for immigration are closed until May 29th. So they first open June 1st. But I believe not every court will open June 1st. Here in New Jersey and New York, listen, we've been hit really hard. Just look at my hair. I mean, I can't even get a haircut. So, well, actually, almost nobody can get a haircut nowadays. But courts have been closed in New York. New Jersey's been affected really hard. We've had tens of thousands of cases, thousands of deaths in this area. So it wouldn't surprise me if someplace in Nebraska, for example, a court in Nebraska would open up before Newark or New York courts. So stay tuned. Probably around 2 weeks, around the middle of May, is when I suspect we'll know more about the courts and about USCIS. Recent court activity. Barton v. Barr. The Supreme Court's analysis is going to cause problems for lots of green card holders. What was this case about? Andre Barton was admitted as a tourist from Jamaica in 1999. In 1992, he became a lawful permanent resident, i.e. a green card holder. In 1996, just before completing 7 years, he was convicted of 3 felonies: aggravated assault, first-degree criminal damage to property, and possession of a firearm while committing a felony. That's big stuff. I mean, that's for an immigrant, that's a big deal. But if that wasn't enough, in 2007 and 2008, he was convicted of drug possession. Years later, the government put him in removal proceedings. Now, remember, he is a lawful permanent resident. He has permission to stay in the United States. The government said, no, we're going to deport you. He said, well, wait a second. I got a defense to that. It's called cancellation of removal for lawful permanent residents. And there are 4 requirements. Now, in this program, many a times I've talked about cancellation of removal for non-green card holders, for non-lawful permanent residents. That is a much more detailed and a much harder to prove path. It's easier for somebody who's been admitted to the United States lawfully as a green card holder to prove their right to stay here. So, the context: entered legally, got his green card, and then was convicted of several crimes, and now the government has said, you missed your opportunity, you're a bad guy, you don't deserve to stay here. And he said, wait, I got a defense. And the defense requires 4 requirements. 1, he's a lawful permanent resident for 5 years before he files the application. He got it in 96, he filed for 2014, had that easily. Lived in the U.S. for 7 years, lawfully with some kind of status. 3, not convicted of an aggravated felony. Aggravated felonies, it's defined by immigration, not by the criminal courts. And 4, in the judge's opinion, he deserves discretion. Now, the Supreme Court here said he doesn't have the 7 years because he was convicted of a serious crime before the 7 years are up. He missed it by 2 months. If he had applied 2 months later, he would have still been here. Because of that, he was deported. Now, look, I'm not defending anybody that gets convicted of a crime. I'm not suggesting that. Maybe you can go and reopen it. Maybe you could have. But the Supreme Court, here's the problem. When someone's in the United States and the government is looking to remove him from the United States, there's 2 different sets of laws. One is for somebody who was never admitted legally, in other words, inadmissible. That's one set of laws. Another one is for someone who was admitted legally and is now going to be deported. And the Supreme Court, in my opinion, confounded the two. He was entered legally, and the government was trying to deport him, but they used analysis that said he was inadmissible. So inadmissible is not the same as deportable. There are two different legal frameworks, and the Supreme Court confused the two. What's going to come out of this is a mess. How much of a mess, we'll know in time. One thing's for sure, if you're a green card holder, apply for citizenship right away and don't commit any crimes until you do. Guys, I've been telling you this was going to happen. John Doe v. Trump. So John Doe's a US citizen. He's married to an immigrant who does not have a social security number. He has 2 US citizen children, obviously born here in the States. And he's saying, listen, the Trump administration has discriminated against me because they won't give me my stimulus check. Stimulus checks are for anybody who's making less than $75,000 individually or making less than $150,000 married jointly, gets $1,200 up to $1,200 per adult. So in John Doe's situation, obviously it's not his real name. In John Doe's situation, a family of 4, 2 adults is $2,400, 2 kids is another $1,000, $3,400. He's saying, listen, the government is not giving me anything because my wife doesn't have a social. He's saying I'm being discriminated against only based on who I marry. He says I have a fundamental right to marry who I choose, and the government can't intervene in that. The government can't say I'm going to treat this couple differently than that couple just because one has a social or one doesn't. What happens if she has an individual tax identification number? What happens if she's been paying taxes for the past 10 years, which in John Doe's case she has? It is unconstitutional, and I've said that many a times, and now we're finally starting to see cases being filed making that argument. So John Doe filed in the Chicago area. The Mexican American Legal Defense and Education Fund filed a similar case with 6 different, they're filing for class action all over the country. We will see how that progresses in the future. Public charge. So the Supreme Court declined to stop the implementation of the public charge rule during the pandemic. This is no surprise. Again, I've said this in the past in this program. The government has announced that they will not implement the public charge rule against anybody affected by the coronavirus. For those of you who don't recall, you can listen to prior videos that I've made, prior programs. Public charge rule, it went into effect in February 2020. That is where the government is trying to find people entering the United States ineligible to come because they may need public assistance in the future. So what the government is saying is essentially, listen, this is a wealth test. You need to show me that you can stand on your own 2 feet and that you won't need the government's help for anything in the future until you're a US citizen. So, and they look at health issues. The government has said, listen, if you come down with the coronavirus, I'm not going to count that against you for the public charge. Even if the government is paying for your treatment or your preventative treatment if a vaccine becomes available, it will not be counted against you. So I thought the lawsuit was kind of silly, but it was an existing lawsuit where they asked the Supreme Court to say, hey, under these circumstances, will you just stop it? And the Supreme Court said, no, we're not going to just stop the implementation during the coronavirus. We'll let the government do what it's going to do, and we'll make individual assessments if it ever comes back to us. Now, sanctuary cities. For the past 3 years, Trump has made his vendetta to hurt those sanctuary cities because they let criminals free and they destroy people's livelihoods. In City of Chicago v. Barr, the 7th Circuit of Appeals said, Trump, you can't do that. And specifically said, Trump, you can't withhold money from the coronavirus to cities and states because of your immigration agenda. Congress has the power of the purse, not the president. Congress allocates funds, and the president can't add his own conditions to the receipt of that money. The 1st, 3rd, and 9th Circuit have made similar decisions. Now, we're in New Jersey, we're in the 3rd Circuit. New York is the 2nd Circuit. But this is the first countrywide injunction that says the Justice Department can't make these conditions now or at any point in the future. No circuit had gone that far. What they're essentially saying is Trump hands off the money. If Congress allocated it, you must give it. You can't change it. You can't modify it. You don't have to like it. If you don't like it, change the law. But you can't add your conditions after the fact. I hope that's clear. So that summarizes our recap of decisions of the past couple of weeks. Now, how much money do you need to bring to your no-cost consultation? At Andres Mejer Law, we charge by process. So someone who's applying to renew work authorization will pay much less than someone who's in removal proceedings. At Andres Mejer Law, we're focused on getting you the best outcome possible. And that means we're talking about 3 fundamental questions. We ask essentially the same questions at every consultation, and then we create a plan. So, we talked about this in more detail last week, but 1, do you qualify for something? Green card, asylum, U visa, citizenship, whatever it is, do you have a path? 2, is there something in your past that can disqualify you, like multiple entries into the United States? Maybe you've been deported before. Maybe you have criminal charges. Maybe you're in removal proceedings now. So do you have a path? Is there something that could disqualify you? And 3, can we fix that problem? Maybe we have to reopen a conviction. Maybe we have to reopen an order of removal. Maybe we have to ask for a waiver. Whatever it is, do you have a path? Is there something that disqualifies you? And can we fix it? Because we focus on these 3 questions, 2 clients who are both filing for the same petition, like a U visa, might have very different fees. One might be a straight U visa with no criminal conduct, nothing whatsoever, and the other one may have an order of removal, may be in removal, may have their own conviction in the past, and may also be trying to include their spouse or children. So, yes, they're both applying for a U visa, but the circumstances are completely different, and for that reason, the prices are completely different. So look, here's how we look at fees at Andres Mejer Law. 1, there's an application process that you pay for. Green card, U visa, asylum, citizenship, each has different prices depending on what we do. But first is, you need a process. Secondly, do we need to order documents from immigration through the FOIA process? And there's 7 different agencies. It might be prior contacts with immigration at the border, it might be prior order of removal, or it might be prior petitions that you filed. But do you have something? So you're applying for something. What is it? There's a price. And then do we need to order your prior stuff from immigration? Yes or no? If yes, additional fee. If no, obviously we don't. We don't charge for what we don't do. Then, do we need to order copies from any criminal courts? Do we have to do a background search from the FBI? Have you ever been arrested before? Yes or no? If yes, I need that documentation. If no, well, maybe there's a mistake in the FBI record, and do you want to wait until you're in removal or until you filed to find out there was a mistake? Let me give you an example. I had a client, Guadalupe Hernandez. That's not her real name. I'm making that up. Guadalupe is one of those names that in Spanish could be male or female. So she was in removal proceedings, and the government said she was inadmissible. She wasn't eligible because she was convicted of drug possession in Arizona. But it turned out to be a different Guadalupe. It was not her. It was a guy. So how do we find that out? By doing a background search and contacting the courts. So what's your path? What's the price? Do we need to order documents from immigration? That's FOIA. Do we need to order documents from the FBI and from the police and from courts? Now, if there's something that makes you ineligible, and then we might have to fix it through a waiver, or we may have to reopen the criminal case, or reopen a removal order, or refiling for a relief that was done for you in the past. So, do you have a path? Do we need to order from documents from immigration? Do we need to order from the FBI or from the police? Do we need to fix something in your past? And then 5, are you applying for just yourself, or are you also applying for your spouse and your kids? Is your spouse and your kids in the US? Is it one petition or multiple petitions? Do they need waivers? Is there something in their past, like your spouse, that may disqualify her? Let's say you're applying for a green card petition for 2 of your parents. And let's say your father was deported from the United States in the past, but your mother was never here. Well, your father has something we may have to fix. Your mom would not. So, Each one of these has a cost. It's for that reason my assistants can't give you a price on the phone. It requires the knowledge and experience to figure out what needs to be done and what we charge for those services. Just to remind you, what is your path? Do we need to order documents from immigration? Do we need to, that's FOIA process, do we need to order from the FBI or from the courts, from the police? Is there something that makes you ineligible that we need to fix? Who's applying for the benefit? Is it just you, or is it for you and other benefits and other members of your family? And if so, is there something that could disqualify them? Do we have to order documents from FOIA for them? Do we have to order documents from the FBI for them? Do we have to fix something in their past? Do you see how complicated that could be? It's not just, how much does a U visa cost? It's so much more than that. And that's why when we say every case is unique, I mean it. But you don't need to worry. I know this sounds complicated. Wow, that sounds really expensive. It can be. In some cases it is. I won't lie to you. We work really hard, and sometimes it's expensive. But we do offer payment plans. Now, we also offer discounts for those that pay in full. So the more money you bring with you to the consultation, the higher the possibility of getting a discount on your immigration case. We give your case the priority that you do. So the sooner you pay for your case, the sooner it gets filed. We typically need several weeks once we have all the documents, once you've answered our questions, and you've paid in full to file your case. So the more you bring with you to start your case, the lower will be your payment plan, and the faster your case will be filed. So that's how much money you should bring. Aren't you glad you asked? Who should come with you to your consult? What do you mean? I gotta bring somebody? Maybe you do. So the simple answer is anybody who's trying to receive an immigration benefit needs to be there. If you're trying to achieve legal status for you and your wife, then both you and your wife needs to be there. Now, I'm not saying bring your infant child with you, because they came with you filing for asylum. I'm not talking about that. I'm really talking about an adult. So the simple answer is anyone trying to receive an immigration benefit. And if we find a solution to your immigration challenge, anyone you would need to consult with to decide, hey, should I make this decision? Should I choose to fix my immigration situation? So who should come with you to your consult? 1, anybody who wants to receive a benefit. And 2, anybody you need to talk to in order to decide, hey, is this a smart decision? So, going to the first one. Everybody wants to achieve legal status. Every day I have a husband or a wife or boyfriend or girlfriend who comes to my office looking to achieve legal status. Sometimes the person who comes alone doesn't qualify, but spouse does. But since the spouse wasn't there, we couldn't be sure. I'd rather talk about it once and figure out what the plan is rather than talk about it a little bit, then come back and talk about it a little bit more, then come back and talk about it. That's inefficient. And nowadays, it's all about efficiency. Second, anyone whose advice you need in order to decide whether you should hire the attorney, you should come with you. So the first is anybody who wants to receive a benefit. Second is anyone advice you need. So at the consult, we're going to diagnose your specific situation. Again, do you qualify for something? 2, is there something in your past that could disqualify you? 3, can we fix it? Once we create that plan and we have 1, 2, and 3, and we realize we can help you, we will tell you whether we will accept you as a client. If we accept you as a client, we're going to tell you here's the investment that you need to hire our firm. So whoever you would need to discuss the investment with should be with you at the consult in person or via phone and Zoom. That person, because here's what's going to happen. That individual is going to have questions. You may not be able to answer those questions on your own. And you're then going to have to pay for a second consultation just to get the other person's questions answered. That costs you money and it costs you time. It may be that may be your spouse, it may be your parents, it may be your sibling, it may be your employer. Whomever will help you decide, is this a smart investment for me? Do I want to change my life? Do I want to achieve legal status? Do I want my immigration plan that deals with what is my path, anything that could disqualify me, and how do I fix that? Do I want that, and should I pay for it, or how should I pay for it? Whoever would help you make those decisions should be there with you. So the last one, Do I need to bring any documents with me? In most cases, I don't need any document from you at the initial consultation. After you hire us, so if we accept your case and we accept your deposit or your payment, we're going to give you a list of documents that we need, and we're going to give you 2 appointments. One, when we're going to review those documents one-on-one, and secondly, when we're going to ask you a series of questions so that we can prepare the petition in whatever process you qualify for you. So we know you're going to come back, and we know you're going to come back with documents. The only time I would really need to see something, if it's something that directly impacts on, do you qualify or are you ineligible for some reason? So those are the exceptions that we're talking about. For example, if you filed something with immigration, you should bring copies of those documents and any correspondence that you have with immigration. But remember, we talked about the FOIA process, 7 immigration agencies. If you don't have any documents, I can get it. If you were in removal proceedings, that means that ICE gave you documents. We need to see those. But ICE is a government agency. I can use a FOIA to get it. If you were a victim of a crime, bring the police report or any documents from the police or courts. As long as you know the court and the city of where the incident happened, I can usually find it. So you don't have to bring it, but it makes our life easier to know. Here's the court number, here's the date, here's where it happened. So it doesn't, not that it makes our life easier. It's government employees are unfortunately sometimes lazy. So if I tell them Andres Mejer was a victim of a crime in Toms River in 2007 or 2008, that's a lot of stuff they need to look for. In particular, it may not even be digitized. They may have to go in some file in some basement. They don't want to do that. If I show them and say, here's the police report that shows on September 5th, 2007 in Toms River, Andres Mejer was a victim of this crime. Here's the case number. Now they can look it up like that. So they'll give us the information that much quicker. So if you have it, bring it. If you don't have it, we'll get it. Now, if you were charged with a crime, bring whatever the police gave you, whatever documents you have from court. Again, I can get copies of it, but it may make you ineligible, because you're going to tell me, well, here's the story of what happened. I want to know, were you convicted, and if so, of what? You're going to tell me what you were arrested for. I want to know what you were convicted of, if at all. So those are 2 different things, and your recollection may be inaccurate or incomplete in terms of what I'm looking for. So if you have documents, it removes doubt from the equation. But if you don't, I can get it. Now, here are some documents that you can bring, but you don't have to. This is if you want to get started right away. Here's what you can bring. Identity documents like birth certificates, death certificates, marriage certificates, and passports for your family. Again, we're going to ask you for this at some point, but for immigration, we have to prove certain things at some point. Copies of your most 3 recent income tax returns. I can always order a tax transcript, and we do, but if you have them, again, it just removes, it's one less thing we need. Now, once we have the strategy down, we can determine precisely what documents we need from you. But if you don't want to wait and you want to get started right away, those are the 3 sets of documents that you can bring. Identity documents and tax documents, and anything related to courts and to arrests. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listening to this program. I'm Andres Mejer, published author, public speaker, and immigration attorney. If you like this video, please subscribe and consider sharing this with your friends or family. We do this because we believe educated client is the best client. I look forward to working with you in the near future.